For me, a big play is, can we build the infrastructure right? It's almost like building a city. If the infrastructure is right, and if we have a killer app on that infrastructure, it's going to ignite. I was just speaking with one of the big 7 law firm partners this week on currently the most pressing concern in Canada is stablecoins. I think it's also important in this day and age for our career and just for, if you want to do a business later on, or just to have some sort of a voice in the ecosystem, and having people knowing who you are is really important.
Welcome to the Corner Office. Here we have unpretentious conversations with founders, investors, and people who've got their mojo. Today with me is Maggi Xu. Maggie got into cryptocurrency in 2017 after leaving her legal career behind. Inspired by this desire to create and also seeing new tech that replaced some skill sets of lawyers, she jumped into becoming the driving force of Jack's Wallet, one of Canada's leading blockchain companies with over 2 million global users. She's also a lecturer at York University, an advisor to startups, and today she's here with us to talk about Web3 and crypto. Full disclosure, I have to constantly relearn what Web3 is, so let's wrap around our heads on this together. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Rachel. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So let's jump right into understanding, that transition from law to crypto. What inspired that shift?
So I believe that every one of us is put on this planet to serve our unique purpose. I got into corporate law because of the social injustice that I saw while I was backpacking in Asia. But being in corporate law, I very quickly realized the value I was adding was, I would say, minimal. A lot of it was just template drafting. So coincidentally, in January 2017, a friend of mine gave me an Ethereum. I had no idea what this digital money app thing was about. So very quickly, I started going to all the meetups I can find here in Toronto and realized the power of this new technology called blockchain and how it can fundamentally shift how people are creating the value and how they transact the value between themselves and our financial system and all the society at large. So it's been a wild journey for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point, crypto is changing so fast. I'm still learning it every single day with all the news and everything that's coming out.
Okay, thank you for that. So when I talk to folks in crypto, very excited. What you were just talking about with it being the next thing. How many years do you think we're away from it being like a trusted, reliable source of exchange for not just your group and maybe believers in crypto?
So you're talking about mass adoption of the crypto industry. I would say if you look at Bitcoin right now, it's already so today it's sitting at about $1.2 trillion. That's already a lot of money. So I would say a lot of people already believe that the narrative is Bitcoin is the new gold. It has limited supply. If you're looking for something that's anti-inflation, that's not going to debase based on the way the macro is, Bitcoin is a great reserve. And even, Trump, he was at Nashville a few months ago, and he floated the idea that if he is being elected, Bitcoin might be used as the US national currency. We don't know how much of that is true, but that just gives you a sense of a lot of these central banks around the world. If you look at US, Canada, China, El Salvador even made it its national currency already. So I would say Bitcoin has already gained mass adoption just from all the numbers and all the, everything that we just talked about. But the rest of the crypto market, you're absolutely right. I think we're one killer app away from
what's that killer app?
Killer app as in, if someone builds something that is so easy to use, the UI, UX, everything is just perfect. Like in Canada, for example, I use Wealthsimple. To me, Wealthsimple is a killer app in terms of fintech, right? Like it's so simple. It makes investing or holding stocks just really easy. I feel like in the blockchain application layer, we haven't seen that killer app yet. So
Mm.
you're absolutely right in terms of outside of Bitcoin being used as a store of value, the other applications, we haven't seen that yet. And I think a lot of projects, like a lot of well-funded projects, are working on it. So I think we're probably less than a year away
Less than
from
a year
seeing it.
away. Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack. And like I said, I'm learning all the time. So let's go back to talking about Jax, right? So it's a
Mhm.
crypto wallet. What are crypto wallets? And
Mhm.
after you explain that, can you give us some platforms that viewers can research and possibly hop on to
Mhm.
store their crypto?
Okay. So at a very basic, cryptocurrency is just a currency. So think about it like the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, and a crypto wallet is just a place for you to store that currency. So think about it like your bank account. The biggest difference between a crypto wallet and a bank account is that if let's say I store my money in Bank of Montreal and BMO all of a sudden collapses, there might be some danger to my money being stored there because I don't truly hold on to my money. BMO has my money. In a crypto wallet, however, if it's something called a non-custodial, meaning I have my own wallet, then I will always have it. Unless I lose the keys to my wallet, if other institutions or Web3 projects goes down, I would still have my money. So at the very base, at the very core, it's just believed that people should have ownership of their own money, of their own information, in terms of the healthcare as well, my own health data. Like a lot of this is only made possible through this new technology, the blockchain technology.
At the risk of sounding very ignorant, how
Mhm.
do I know that my money is safe and can be trusted without seeing it in my hands?
So if you look at the blockchain technology and what cryptography is, um, I think explained simply, there's just a lot of computers running around the world. We're talking about millions of computers running at the same time. And as long as one of them is still up and running, and there's this incentive mechanism built in to make sure that they want to keep up run because they're making money while they're running, as long as they're running, the entire blockchain network is being sustained, meaning you will not lose your cryptocurrency. If we look at Bitcoin, this is already probably like 15 plus years since Bitcoin's been around. It has never been hacked, the Bitcoin blockchain itself. That just gives you a sense of security in terms of, there's a lot of money at stake, $1.2 trillion. That's basically GDP of some small nation. It has never been hacked.
Hmm.
So that just gives you that sense of security that, okay, this new technology, it has been around, it has been tested. Again, it has been already adopted by central banks around the globe. If you look at JP Morgan, if you look at all these big financial institutions, they're now coming into the industry as well. And they're now advising their clients as to why they should at least allocate some percentage of their portfolio into this new asset class. So I think it's just a way for us to see, okay, like this is not just a group of small people playing something anymore. This is now on a global style, a global level, and all the major institutions are already in this.
And just to remind you, any platforms that you recommend in terms of crypto wallets?
Um, Crypto wallet. So there's a difference between something called a custodial crypto wallet and a non-custodial. You've probably like seen that term floating around the web. So custodial just means that a third party is actually managing your wallet for you, and you might want to do it because it's convenient. You don't have to write anything down if you just want to spend $100 and have access to something. That might be a great idea. So I think Simple is a good choice in Canada, something that I've used, and it's very simple to just set up. You offload your bank account, it connects to your bank account, you put $100 in it, you buy Ether, that's it. A non custodial wallet is where you have to write down the 12 words or the 24 words, which is basically your little password to unlock that. So Ledger is probably the most, I would say, well tested cold wallet. Cold wallet just also is another term for non custodial. So yeah, I would advise Ledger for the non-custodial part.
Maggie, going back to your earlier point, or the point you started with, people are built for things, or at least that's what you believe. How do you feel about what you do every day today?
I feel very excited. So, as I mentioned, my core belief is that everyone is put on this planet to carry out a unique purpose. And when I think about the philosophy or the ideology that I believe in, it is that it is freedom. Like at the end of the day, why do we go to work? Why do we go to school? Why are we making money? It's happiness and freedom. That's really it. And I think the way a lot of the beliefs in the society today, it's because, we need banks, we need governments, we need a lot of the other intermediaries. Yes, we do need those things to manage our society. However, there might be new business models that are being unlocked with all the new technology. Web3 is only one of the new technology, AI being another new technology. And I think with these new technology, it unlocks new business models like in finance, for example, we might get into this whole notion around DeFi later. That's a new business model all in itself. In social media, same thing. We're now seeing new business models. In games, we're now seeing new business models. And all these new business models are only made possible because of a technology like the blockchain, where truly you can interact with someone on the other side without knowing who they are, complete stranger, and you can trust them because you trust this technology, and this technology, it will just always execute. So I think because of that, every day when when I wake up, when I start working on my emails, everything, I just feel excited as being at the forefront of driving this new change into our overall society. And especially like dear to my heart, I really care about women, especially care about like empowering more women to learn more about what money is, about investment, about just a lot of these notions. And I think, and this is why like I started to spend time to build on my personal brand because I do want to be that voice for this technology. A lot of people, when they hear about blockchain or cryptocurrency, it just goes over their head. They're like, okay, either this is a scam or this is too hard. Like I don't know anything about tech. I don't even want to like get started, but it's actually not. Like if you, and this is why like I'm doing all these educational videos, because if you start talking about it, then people realize, look, oh, interesting, now I know this is another possibility, and now I can start diving into it.
And to be fair, there are a lot of bad actors in this industry,
Mm,
like any industry, right? So
yes.
if you could change anything about how crypto and blockchain is understood, what would it
Mhm.
be?
That's a great question. I think at the fundamental layer, blockchain is just a new internet. A lot of people try to explain it in so many different ways with like cryptography, all the different blockchains, linking, like forget about all that. At the very, very basic level, blockchain is just a new internet where trust is kind of built into this new internet. And trust in the sense that when you interact with someone, you believe that the blockchain, the technology will go and execute that transaction. So you don't necessarily need the middle people to go and institute that trust. If you look at all the intermediaries we have in the society right now, that's their core purpose. They bring people together, you trust them. So I think, when people think about like crypto or they think about scams, that might be another big, I would say, myth. And so 95% of the projects in the space right now, they might be a pump and dump scheme.
Oh no.
I'm just being honest here, right?
Yeah,
So like
appreciate that.
yeah, like there's the ideal philosophy, which myself really subscribe to, and a lot of people in the industry subscribe to. But everyone else is like, oh my gosh, this is Wild Wild West. I'm seeing all the money. Let me go in, pump and dump, and do a drag pull and do all this. So, yes, there are a lot of bad players in this area. But just like you said, any industry, when it starts out, the internet, if you look at 1999, it's the exact same thing. 99% of the projects aren't even there anymore. But the ones that survived, Amazon survived, Google survived, like all these big companies that all the other tech industries are built around was from that. So I think, yeah, I really look forward to that killer app that basically can rise from the ashes and can build out our next wave of the new internet.
You're gonna have to tell me what that killer app is in about a year. That's your prediction, about a year.
You know what? We'll be here a year from today, okay,
We'll talk about it.
August 2025, and we'll talk about it.
So Web3, it's not interchangeable with cryptocurrency or blockchain, is it?
There are slightly difference between those three. Yes.
So give me the breakdown of what Web3 is, because we just talked about crypto and blockchain, a bit of a definition.
Sounds good. So Web3 really is the umbrella term for all the innovation, this big movement around the new internet. If you look at so Web3 means we're in the third generation now of the web. First generation of the web was when it first started, 1990s to 2000s. That's when it's more of a yellow page. So you can read about it, you can't really interact with it. Web 2 is basically the current internet that we're in, which is there's a lot of social media. The focus is on the user, right? If I now comment on someone's Instagram, if I go on comment on a forum, that website is now changing because of my input. And there's this really interesting dynamic where you can read something, but you can also write it out as well. The challenge with the Web 2, which is the current internet, is power is extremely centralized. And if you look at, there's only a handful of the tech giants, all the big social media companies basically, that really control what is and is not allowed on the internet. And that's what Web3 is trying to change, where as an individual, we can actually own a piece of this new internet. Just to give you an example. So I just recently started blogging. If I blog on Medium or any of these other channels, again, if Medium shuts down, my content is gone because it's being stored and served on Medium. However, there's now these new Web3 kind of parallels to something like a Medium. It's called paragraph.xyz if you want to go check it out. And basically, you have this option of storing your writing forever on the internet, should you choose. So these are something as, a potential writer, something that I care about. So that's what the Web3 is. Cryptocurrency is just a currency, like the Canadian or the US dollar, that people can use in this new movement to transacting value. And then blockchain is the underlying technology that makes it happen.
Yeah, what you said earlier, it gave me chills, right? Don't have to trust people anymore. You trust the technology.
Yes.
So that's the blockchain. For someone just starting to explore crypto, how do you get involved? Let's say as an investor and as an owner.
How do you get involved? So I think the easiest way to get involved is just buy the Bitcoin ETF, right? The fact that you can now basically use your tax-free savings account or even your RSP or even any of the other tax incentive accounts for anyone who doesn't live in Canada. That's the easiest way to just get exposure to this new asset class. If you look at your portfolio diversification, you want exposures to different asset classes that do not correlate to each other. And, Bitcoin, again, the liquid gold, is not correlating to the macro economy. So I think that's the easiest way. And there's a lot of platform that is providing that already. Beyond that, if you want some other exposure to the industry, I would suggest it's interesting to get involved in the projects themselves or at least go to conferences. There's a few major blockchain Web3 conferences around. So the upcoming one in Singapore, end of September, it's called Token 2049. A lot of the investors, we're talking about, the biggest probably venture capital, hedge funds will be there just to meet different projects. And then outside of the conference itself, because the tickets can be very expensive, you can always go to the side events and just get to know people, talk about projects. And there might be something that you talk about that really piques your interest, depending on, if you're an artist, a writer, you're in financial markets, there's all these different applications emerging from this technology that just might pique your interest. And I think that's really the best way to get exposure.
And you just talked about Web3 projects. Are there any lately that really excite you?
Yes. So I would say, so for me, a big play is, can we build the infrastructure right? It's almost like building a city. If the infrastructure is right, and if we have a killer app on that infrastructure, it's going to ignite. That's just how it goes. Infrastructure wise, right now there's three that I'm very bullish on. So first one is called Base, Base, and it's launched by Coinbase. So Coinbase is the largest publicly traded blockchain company in globally right now. And Base is basically something called a layer two. All it means is it's a blockchain built on top of Ethereum just to make the transactions go faster. So Base right now is seeing extremely good user growth. If you look at their months over months user growth, the total value locked on Base, if you look at the transaction volume, everything, like the metrics is just, it's heavenly. It's almost like when ChatGPT
Heavenly.
like if I were an investor or a VC looking at projects and I were looking at Base, it is heavenly. Like it's the dream app right now. The only thing is it hasn't, I would say it's still very dominated in the Web3 space. If you ask someone on the street, they probably don't know about Base yet. This is what I mean. It's not a killer app yet, right? But the infrastructure layer is already really well done. So that's the first one. Second one is Solana. So Solana. And by the way, none of this is financial advice. This is just my own opinions. So Solana has been around for a couple years already, has seen a lot of ups and downs already, but the entire Solana ecosystem, just like Base, metrics wise, everything you just talked about, user growth, months over months, TVL, total value locked. If you like all the DeFi applications, another big thing for Solana is something called meme coins. So if people want to go in and trade and dump, there's a lot of meme coins happening in Solana right now. The ecosystem is going great. And then the third one is called TON, Ton. So that blockchain is very closely associated with Telegram. Telegram, if you're not aware, is basically like WhatsApp, and I think it's like the fourth largest messenger app in the world right now. So basically, if we can move all the Telegram users to the Ton blockchain, just imagine how that fire is going to be ignite. So those are the three that I'm very bullish on.
And how do you come across these projects? Is it just because you're on industry news every day? Do people come up to you in your circle and tell you about these projects?
I feel like honestly, it's no different from if you're working in the capital markets, right? You will have to read the news every day. You will have to probably watch like CNBC or all the other news every day and just get your information source because the markets are changing every single day with the macro, with the micro, everything. So yeah, basically I wake up, I just read my crypto Twitter, I read my crypto news, I listen to podcast. It's no different from anyone else getting their news source.
You're also working on a book right now called Zero X Society. Can you break down what, first of all, Zero X means?
Yes. And by the way, I just want to give a shout out to Rachel for all the research that she is doing. I'm very impressed. So, yes, so Zero X is it's kind of like an inside joke in the crypto space. Any Ethereum address starts with number zero and the letter X. And zero X now, if you look at a lot of people's Twitter handle or X handle, it starts with zero X as well. It's just a sign of, hey, I'm one of the believers in the industry. That's really just what it simplifies. So for the book, I've been thinking a lot about why I came into the industry and why a lot of my friends who are so smart, bankers, investment bankers, consultants, they still have a lot of question marks around this industry because I think a lot of them still can't get their head around, a lot of the concepts that we talked about. So this book is really a ground up way, like a very grassroots way of looking at, okay, what is money? What is the current financial ecosystem? And what can we do about it? Like all the new business models that we talked about. Okay, like is there practical ways for us to carry these out? Like I'm also a realist in the sense that when I look at a problem or a potential opportunity, I think about what is that lowest hanging fruit? Like, what can we actually build on it instead of just talking about it and getting people excited? So, this book kind of explores the different industries. We talk about gaming, talk about social media, we talk about the financial markets, we talk about money and individual ownership of it. So, it's just a way to, I guess, re examine what a future society that might be 10,000 times better than the one we're in, how it might look like, and who are the projects that's already building and that's already succeeding in the industry. And just to kind of, I guess, make people think about the way society is today in a new, different light.
Mm. We talked about how Web3 is also affecting social media.
Yes.
Let's talk about social media for a second. You also are building a personal brand on there. You have a big following on Instagram. Um, how do you think, first of all, Web3 is already affecting how we use, the everyday apps we know?
Hmm.
And why was it important for you to grow your personal brand, other than what you already told us, which is to empower others and women to
Mm.
understand the space?
Mm.
Anything else that you can share?
Gotcha. So in terms of social media, if you're a content creator or an influencer, so like in my last consulting career, I worked with different social media influencers, and the big concern that they have is they cannot take their followers with them. Like if let's say someone's really big on Instagram, they're kind of stuck on Instagram. If let's say Instagram decides to change their business model and they take 90% of the profit that you make, you can't really do anything else about it, right? Like Instagram has the
So
power.
true.
And I think that's a huge red flag for anyone who is spending 8, 10 hours a day building your brand and knowing that they can't really take their followers with them should they choose to. So the new alternative is okay, what if now you do have this platform? You can build your followers with it, same way that all the other social medias are, but you can now take them with you. So if someone wants to look it up, now there's something called a Farcaster or Warpcast. And these are just the new, I would say, Twitters in the Web3 globe that does exactly that. So there's a lot of new applications being built. It's still a super, super niche area right now, but we're already seeing some momentum being built. So that's on the social media side. Basically, it just solves the problem of, hey, you should own your own followers, right? If you work hard for them. On my personal IP side, so yes, aside from wanting to get that message out, I think it's also important in this day and age for our career and just for, if you want to do a business later on or just to have some sort of a voice in the ecosystem, having people knowing who you are is really important. Like if I go to a conference right now, a lot of people will come up to me like, "Hey Maggie, like haven't seen you in a while." That's because I've spent the time to build my brand on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Those are kind of the two main channels I use right now. But it's because I've put myself out there. People know who I am because I've found my voice. I, I would say 30%, still on my way to do that. But the point is, if you do really good work, which is what I did before, I would be working really, really hard, 12-hour days, but I don't really put myself out there and no one knows what I was doing. And a lot of the work I realized after, if you're not constantly talking with people and kind of gauging the market sentiment, a lot of that work is essentially wasted. You have to always loop yourself in with the market and kind of check, is this like meaningful blog? Is this a meaningful video? Like, are we actually doing something meaningful here? So I feel through this new IP development phase of my life, I have better use of my time, more intentional use of my time on building things. And yeah, so that's my other reason.
Very cool. I completely agree with you. Basically, shining a light on what you're doing and understanding that goes back to like inner work, understanding what it is that you really love to do or good at so that it's all worthwhile as well in the end.
And like it's funny you mentioned that. So I actually spent a long time trying to figure out what is it that I'm good at and I love to do. I started doing it in high school. And I feel sometimes it's not so much about, oh, a light bulb comes in and you just know. It's about these little hunches that you have to follow, right? It's like, oh, this kind of piques my interest. Let me put myself out there. Also, it's about overcoming your limiting beliefs. So again, it's a lot of the inner work, but once you kind of start realize that it's not just a huge jump from 0 to 1, which is what I believed before, and that's why it took me so long and I did not find my path. Now I realize it's that point 0.1 increments. And once you realize this, it's so much easier to do it this way.
I feel like people in their 30s will completely feel this, but people who are like 18, 19, 20, they're like not going to connect yet.
It's like, what is this girl
What is
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. You'll figure it out in a few years. Let's move on to talking about DeFi.
Okay.
So, short for decentralized finance, it refers to financial applications that are built on blockchain. It's all about recreating traditional financial systems like lending and borrowing, but again, in a decentralized manner without intermediaries. Um, what are the most, I guess, used types of applications currently today in 2024,
Mhm.
and how is that going to be, blossoming over time?
If you look at our current financial market, the big value that people are using is really, hey, I have a paycheck. Let me store my money. Once I store my money, okay, can I earn some interest on it, right? Put in a GIC, 5%. And then, okay, if I want to buy a house, can I borrow against it? And if I have money, can I lend it out and maybe get some higher interest? That's really the use case. Oh, and then one more is if I have, let's say, relatives in Asia, can I send money to them easily and quickly? That's really the main use case of the current financial system. All of those use cases can be used in the Web3 space. So if you have we talked about a cryptocurrency wallet. If you have a wallet, you can interact with a lot of these more decentralized financial apps, so DeFi. And basically, same thing. If I have $10 in USDT, which is just the cryptocurrency equivalent of the US dollar, if I have had $10 in it and I go on a DeFi website and I say, okay, let me kind of put my money in there and let me get some interest on it. You can do exactly that. Just the same way you put your money into a savings account. If I now have, again, $10 and I want to borrow against it, let's say I think Bitcoin is going to go higher, I want to borrow against it, I can now go on another DeFi website and basically say, I have $10, maybe I can borrow 80% of it, $8, and then I have to pay it back by the set time. Otherwise, my $10 is going to be, given to this new DeFi website. So I would say all of these current financial applications are already built on the Web3 space. And the ones that are being used the most is really this concept of saving, or in the Web3, we call it staking. But it's basically just like you're getting interest if you have your money there anyway.
Mm.
So if you look at the current stablecoin market, so stablecoin is something like a USDT, USDC. Basically, the value does not change. It is massive. Like we're talking about, so yeah, like over 100 trillion probably at this point. Like it is massive market,
I don't
and
I don't even want to unpack that. I feel like that's a whole like an hour long
yes,
conversation.
yes. So all I'm saying is there is a lot of appetite into this new industry, and people are so smart. Every day, there's all these new financial modeling and remodeling that someone has come up to give you a higher interest yield than what you can get at a traditional bank.
Mm-hmm.
So, but of course, like do your own research because not every protocol is equally safe. There are still a lot of risks with some of the protocols. Some are safer, some are not. So I just want to kind of give that caution as well. Don't be like, hey, I watched this interview and now I want to go try it. Try with $100 maybe. Yeah. And just kind of really get into it slowly.
Regulations wise, I want to understand what you think people should be preparing for because, first of all, governments that limit the use of this technology, then you're stumped. So, what should people prepare for in terms of what regulatory bodies around the world are thinking of currently and also will potentially do?
This is another great question. So yeah, I would say this industry specifically has been very dampened by regulation. Um, However, the good news is now we know that at least Bitcoin and Ethereum is already deemed safe because we already have the Bitcoin ETFs and the Ethereum ETF coming out, right? So great job to all the kind of change makers, especially in the US, that's been dealing with the Securities Commission in the US to make that happen. So now, if you hold, let's say, a Bitcoin ETF in your portfolio, at least you know that is safe because it has already been dealt with by the SEC in the US. Beyond that, there are a couple different regulations at play right now. I was just speaking with one of the big seven law firm partners this week on currently the most pressing concern in Canada is stable coins. And stablecoin, it can be listed as a security by by the Ontario Securities Commission, possibly. So we're looking at this coming October whether they want to mandate some of the central exchanges in Canada to remove stablecoins so that users can only buy Bitcoin, sell it, but you have to trade it into another cryptocurrency. You can't just trade it into, something stable and hold its value, which is a huge game changer for the entire industry. So, I mean, this is very hot, like currently in debate right now. So I would say that is something definitely to be mindful. But if you're just looking at, Bitcoin exposure, Ethereum exposure, which is honestly a huge part of this whole industry already, then that is already safe.
And anyone that wants to work right under the Web3 umbrella like
Mm,
you, what skill sets do you think are key to develop, right?
mhm.
Especially as an up and coming 18, 19-year-old or a 30-year-old, 40-year-old. What are the key skills?
So I did another podcast with Binance Live, and a host asked me exactly the same question. I think he also said 19 and 18-year-olds. So my answer to him is I think curiosity will take you a long way. If you're truly intrigued by everything that we just talked about, by the potential of this new technology on our financial system, on our society, then you want to go and learn it. And there's so many videos on YouTube, on Twitter, like on TikTok, everywhere of people explaining it already. So long, you really believe in it and you can stay in for the long course, you're going to learn a lot. And I think just kind of building on my earlier point, if you go to these industry conferences and events and you meet people, and just through the conversation, they can tell that you've already done some homework in the industry. They're just more willing to talk to you, right? It's like, hey, this is one of our people. I'm going to talk to them more instead of just like, oh, what is a Bitcoin? Okay, well, let me kind of explain. Like, it's a very different vibe as well. So I feel like curiosity will really take you a long way. Besides that, I think having the willingness to go and actually try things out yourself. So not just learn it, but to actually put into actionable steps. So something else we talked about, if you have $10 or $100, you want to start buying the Bitcoin ETF, right? Like start having exposure. If you have money in the game, you're just more likely to learn about it. So I think that's another way of, just check out the communities. If something really piques your interest, see what you can offer to them. If you're a writer, if you're a filmmaker, if you are a social media manager, there is so much to be done in the space and every project needs more talent. So I think there's a lot to be done in the space. And for, yeah, the 18, 19-year-olds out there, you already know social media so well. This is your mother language, basically. Make use of that. And I think a lot of the projects, they also welcome like fresh blood, like very fresh thoughts. So long you have curiosity, you're someone who's hardworking, you really believe in this industry, people will see that.
Hmm. You're not the only lawyer that I've seen leave their legal careers behind.
Mm,
For any lawyer or a lawyer hopeful watching this,
yes.
I just want to understand how they can make sure that they're relevant in a rapidly changing work culture, society, especially as someone who has had experience before as a lawyer.
So your question is for the lawyers, what are some advice for them to be current in the
Current,
industry,
yeah.
in the legal industry? Um, I would say familiarize yourself with the macro trends because I feel like as lawyers, a lot of times we get boggled down on the nitty gritty of what is this case law? Like what does that statute say? Oh, all the legal templates. Let me just kind of change one word here or there. That is great if you're working on a specific client file. If you are thinking about building your own business or attracting more clients, you really need to start focusing on the macro trends. Like depending on what type of law you're practicing, where is your industry going? and these type of new technology, like AI right now is actually doing a lot of the work on a research side, on the summarization side, on even drafting contract side. And if you look at all the startups right now, it's now a different mentality in terms of writing a contract for a startup, raising funds, drafting a safe agreement. These are all very different. So I would say, yeah, definitely familiarize yourself with the new macro trends would be my advice.
And to close it off, I said earlier that I want to have people who've got their mojo on this
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
What does it mean for you to have your mojo?
I think for me, a big part of it is I, I'm going to return to that, finding my calling and um, feeling excited about what I do every day and also feeling more confident. I think especially for women, a lot of times in the workforce, when you first start something, you might have that imposter syndrome. Like, when I first started in the industry back in 2017, I was one of the 5 women in a room of 1,000 men. This is not even a joke. Like, that is the facts. And at first, being the only woman at one of these board meetings or in a big conference or even going on a stage, give a talk, or, I give a talk at a family office, and everyone sitting there is probably 30 years older than I am. And I was like, am I supposed to be here? That was when I first entered the space. I think now I believe that I have a message to get across, and those factors no longer influence me. Now it's more about, okay, like what value can I bring to this room or to these people? And I just think that mindset change is really, yeah, it made me more confident. It made me more just appreciative of the people I work with, of everything. So
Mhm.
I think that's what finding my mojo is for me.
Maggie, you're killing it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. For those of you who are watching to this point, make sure you subscribe. We'll be back with another episode of The Corner Office. You can follow Maggie where or find
uh,
you where?
yeah, so on Instagram, I'm just Maggi.xu, just my name. On LinkedIn, same thing. And then I have a personal website, just maggixu.com. And on there, you can find my Twitter, everything. Also, the book will be linked there as well. And I'll be announcing a just like a very quick digest, probably a newsletter coming soon as well on everything that we just talked about. So
Cool.
thank you for having me, Rachel. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Maggie. Bye, everyone.